team is carrying it forward. In 2025, Team Canada went unbeaten through the Americas regional qualifiers to earn their place at the 2026 ICC Men's T20 World Cup, our second straight qualification. With a new wave of homegrown talent and thriving local and national leagues, cricket is flourishing all across the country. Every year, cricket enthusiasts from across Canada come to Ottawa to raise awareness, advocate for the sport, and play cricket with parliamentarians. Team Canada is proving that Canadian cricket is stepping onto the world stage with ambition and a future that Canadians can cheer for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific so that we can sell more of our product outside of the United States to other countries, make our economy more independent, strengthen the Canadian dollar, and the purchasing power of all Canadians. The Prime Minister has always been against, but now, last week, he did an about-face in Alberta. But when he came back here, there was a rebellion in his caucus, so I took the words from his agreement. Is he going to vote for those words, or can't we believe his words? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Memorandum of Understanding is not something that you can pick and choose from. The opposition leader chose a few words, but not all the words. He forgot the industrial carbon price, the strengthening of that price. He forgot the methane regulations. He forgot net zero 2050. You have to eat the entire meal, not just the appetizer. Eat the entire meal. Well, that would be great if Canadians could buy a full meal, Mr. Speaker. But he's talking about a carbon tax that continues to apply on equipment for farmers, on fertilizer, on those who deliver foods to our stores. And it's causing food inflation to the point that it now is going to cost $17,000 to feed a family of four for a year. Why not get rid of these taxes on groceries so that Canadians can feed their families? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there is no carbon tax on Canadian farms which have emissions below 50 kilotons. The impact of the industrial carbon tax on the price of food in Canada, according to the Climate Institute, is about zero.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific to sell $30 billion of our energy overseas, outside of the U.S. market, making us more independent, self-reliant, our dollar, and therefore Canadians' purchasing power stronger. The Prime Minister always opposed the pipeline, which his party killed, but last week he flip-flopped and promised while he was in Alberta in a deal that he would build such a pipeline. So I took the very wording right out of that deal and put it into a motion before the House of Commons. He experienced a massive rebellion in his own caucus, but if he's going to vote against his own words, how can Canadians ever believe his words?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Canadian national cricket team knows, you've got to play the whole T20. It's not just a couple of overs. It's not just the pipeline. It's not just pathways. It is a price on industrial price on carbon that goes to $130 effective. It is reductions in methane. It is net zero 2050. strong Canada, strong, durable, sustainable, and
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I took the wording for the motion right out of his deal. And if he votes against the motion, he's voting against a pipeline to the Pacific. He's voting against overriding the discriminatory and anti-Canadian ban on shipping our energy abroad. He's voting against consultation with the First Nations people and the British Columbia government, and he's even voting against his own beloved carbon capture and storage, all of which I took word for word right out of his own deal. So if the Prime Minister is only in favor of a pipeline when he's in Alberta, but against when he's in BC and Ottawa, how can Canadians even keep track of where he stands on anything?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome the fact that to my hearing, for the first time ever in this House, the Leader of the Opposition has acknowledged the constitutional right of Indigenous people to full, free, and for the first time he's ever acknowledged the role of the provinces. But he hasn't acknowledged yet the need for an industrial carbon price or the reduction in methane, two things that the Premier of Alberta acknowledged, signed wholeheartedly as part of a complete meal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, not only do we acknowledge the obligation to consult with our First Peoples, we put that right in the motion. It's right there. It's right there, Mark. We put it right there so that he could vote for the words that he put in the agreement. But let's be honest, he never planned to honor the agreement. He whispered quietly to the Keep It in the Ground Liberal caucus, "Don't worry, there will never be a pipeline. We'll delay it until after the election, and then, God forbid, if we win," he says he would kill it altogether. Why can't he say one thing to all Canadians and champion the pipeline with us today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the MOU between the Government of Canada and the Province of Alberta is about a pipeline. It is about carbon capture and storage. It is about interties with the clean electricity grid of British Columbia. It's about artificial intelligence data centers. It is about an industrial carbon price that works. It is about methane regulations that get methane down 75% so that we can have the lowest emission, low risk, lowest cost oil in the world and build this country.
The Leader of the Opposition.
We put the interties proposal right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the carbon capture right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the pipeline and the overriding of the oil shipping ban right in the motion. It came right out of the deal that he signed. So now it's clear that the only thing he really cares about is that it doesn't include an industrial carbon tax that will drive jobs out, drive grocery prices up. Why is it that he wants a carbon tax without a pipeline when what we really need is a pipeline without a carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made. Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lifelong member of this House, so I don't know all the rules, but I don't think there's a limit on the size of motions. And in fact, since the MOU is already translated, I think it would be very easy to take the entire MOU in both official languages and propose them if the members opposite would support everything that the Premier of Alberta has done.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we read this morning a letter from the former Minister of the Environment and former Minister of Heritage, and apparently he's not very happy, but still a member of the Liberal caucus, and he has described the setbacks and the problems with the agreement between the Prime Minister of Canada and the Premier of Alberta. What I need to know from the Prime Minister is he going to choose the environment and his own caucus, or is he going to choose the investors in the oil companies? The right Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government has chosen Canadians, the future of all Canadians. That means good jobs. That means a sustainable, prosperous economy with major investments in every form of energy and with a future for Quebec that is clean and prosperous. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. The Prime Minister's words are more cute than they are specific. Moving on to the religious exemption. Does the Prime Minister agree with his Justice Minister? Or is he not in agreement with his Minister of Justice? Does he agree with the Justice Minister who seems to agree with the Bloc? So what I'd like to know is what is his position, and I think people have a right to understand his personal position. Does the Prime Minister, is he ready to respect religious minorities, or is he going to respect all Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-9, which the member across the way is talking about, it's a bill that is there to protect religions. It's to protect temples, synagogues, churches, mosques. And I know that members of the Justice Committee are currently discussing changes, possible amendments to that law. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. So among the religions to be protected, is there Adil Sharkawi, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we've learned that somebody who's close to the Prime Minister and who's close to the Liberal Party of Canada, we believe that it's just like in the Trudeau era, we've understood that this person has spoken out in favor of the discount drivers, the drivers who are dangerous on our roads. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, is he going to serve the Friends of the Liberal Party, or is he going to serve Canadians and their safety? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, unacceptable words are always unacceptable, and that's clear. That's absolutely clear. We are working, and always working, to protect truckers. We are always working to protect rights, and that is why the government is tightening the rules for truckers.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of trucks, they take steel. Unlike what the Prime Minister said when he asked a reporter whether he or anybody uses steel anymore in Canada. You know, farm equipment takes steel as well. And farming takes fertilizer. All of these things are taxed by the industrial carbon tax. Sorry I have to give this elementary lesson in the supply chain to the Prime Minister, but it is a reality. And with this tax, food prices have gone up so that Canadians now have to spend $17,000 a year on groceries. Before Christmas, will he get rid of that tax, or will he be the Grinch of the grocery store?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for a fleeting moment there, I thought we were going to get another lecture on wood. We're all bracing ourselves over here for another one of those Leader of the Opposition lectures on wood. I do take his point on steel. Indeed, there is steel in farm equipment. Indeed, Canadian farmers are the best in the world. Indeed, our Minister of Agriculture and the entire government are rallying behind them to support our farmers, to support our steel workers, to support our economy, to build big projects with Alberta, with British Columbia. We're going to keep doing that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yet the Prime Minister is afraid to stand up and debate grocery prices. He says he knows so much about inflation. Well, he's certainly caused a lot in his life, Mr. Speaker. Then he should be able to stand up and defend the very industrial carbon tax that he says is even more important than a pipeline from Alberta. An industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, fertilizer, food processors, at a time when Canadians are paying twice what they were a decade ago for groceries. At Christmas time, will he do the right thing, get rid of this tax so Canadians can eat?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, let me make it really simple for the member opposite. The industrial...
We have to be able to hear the minister. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
From the top. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apparently I need to repeat it again and again, so let me do that. To make it simple for the member opposite, the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food. It does not apply to farms. But more than that, if we're going to look at that food price report that he is referring to, perhaps he wants to refer to the other parts of it, which is climate change and weather events have become a growing concern for agricultural producers, and increasingly severe and unpredictable weather events are disrupting agricultural production, creating supply challenges that continue to influence food prices across Canada. They should get on board to fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, no matter how high they raise the taxes, they're not going to change the weather, Mr. Speaker. And the Prime Minister should be willing to stand up before Christmas and look the seniors in the eye who can't afford to feed themselves, the single mothers who can't afford to feed their children and buy Christmas gifts this winter, while he not only does an industrial carbon taxes on farmers and fertilizer, but a food packaging tax, which will increase grocery prices by $1 billion across the land. So will the Prime Minister live up to his promise to be judged by the prices of the grocery store and get rid of those hidden Liberal taxes on food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
The Leader of the Opposition has said he doesn't want to do anything about climate change. He wants to talk about imaginary taxes. But when we want to do things for Canadians that are really struggling, as he points out, like, by the way, index in Canada child benefit to inflation, ensure that we have a strong school nutrition program, sign agreements on childcare that are saving families in Ontario $10,400 a year on average, Mr. Speaker, they vote against those supports. So which is it? They don't want to fight climate change. They don't want to stand up for Canadians. What are they doing here?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Stand up for Canadians. The Prime Minister won't even stand up in the House of Commons and answer a question about groceries. She calls, a moment ago, he was bragging about his industrial carbon tax. And now his minister says it's imaginary. So apparently the Prime Minister is imagining things again, Mr. Speaker. How can Canadians keep straight his story on grocery prices where one day he promises to be judged by the price of food, the next day he says we need more of a tax on food, and his own minister says it's all in his head?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, what I said was it's all in that member's head, that there are no taxes on food, there are no taxes on farms. But rather than look for solutions, Mr. Speaker, they just throw roadblocks in the way of every single Canadian who knows that they need supports in difficult times. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, what Canadians are counting on is a government that will stand with them, that will make sure that when they don't have access to dental care, they can get their teeth fixed. That as a senior ages, their income will be geared to inflation, Mr. Speaker, that the Canada Child Benefit will keep up with the cost of living. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Time and time again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians walk down grocery aisles week after week looking at prices rising to the point where they can no longer afford even to buy beef or put meat and potatoes on their dinner table, they see the Prime Minister who promised that he would be judged by the price at the grocery store, unwilling to even stand up and defend his appalling record of increasing grocery bills by $1,000 for the year to come. It's not just his industrial carbon tax. He's doubled the deficit Trudeau left behind, which will once again stoke inflation. Why is he forcing Canadians to feed his morbidly obese deficit rather than feeding their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that Conservative leader continues to spin the same old rhetoric, we've been focused on cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time home buyers. We continue to lean in on affordability, school food programs, automatic federal benefits, the list goes on and on. Mr. Speaker, we are laser focused on this side on affordability. That Conservative leader and his party continues to spin the same old tired rhetoric rhetoric time and time again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I'm glad that member got that off his chest, but the reality is that the question was for the Prime Minister. He's the one who promised to spend less, and yet he doubled the deficit that Justin Trudeau left behind. His deficit is $16 billion bigger than he promised. He's added about $90 billion of net new spending, most of it on governmental operations. And all of this will contribute to the inflation Canadians are paying at the grocery store. So why won't he stand up and take account for the food price inflation he's caused while Canadians struggle to put Christmas dinner on the table?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. We need to work together. The government of Alberta supports this MOU in its entirety. The citizens of Alberta gave our Prime Minister 2 standing ovations in Calgary for this MOU. The only people who are divided on this are the Conservatives. They should get on board and build Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Maybe we should tell that to the Liberal member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, the Liberal member for Vancouver Grenville, the Liberal member for Beaches East York, the Liberal member for Victoria, for Vancouver Quadra, South Surrey White Rock, Honoré Mercier, Fleetwood Port Kells, Laurier St. Marie, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, North Vancouver, Capilano. These are all the 11 Liberal MPs who have spoken out against the Prime Minister's deal, and instead of standing up to them, instead of standing up to the Leave It in the Ground Liberal caucus, he's backed down, put them back in charge, and blocked his own pipeline.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, every one of those 11 people, indeed every one of the 170 people on this side of the House who were elected to put Canadians to work, building major projects, building it with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, protecting our workers, protecting those most vulnerable, coming to the aid of families. 170 Liberal members on this side of the House supporting a strong Canada, a compassionate Canada, and we are completely united on all of that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, we wondered why the Liberals... The Honourable Member can start from the top. We don't hear very well. So he can go ahead. Mr. Speaker, we were wondering why the Liberals are protecting low-cost drivers by shifting their responsibilities to the provinces. Well, imagine this. One of the Prime Minister's closest organizers, Tej Dulat, works for the companies that hire these drivers. At the Prime Minister's swearing-in ceremony, this generous Liberal donor was even seated right next to him. No risk of confusing him with a lobbyist, because he's not even listed in the lobbying registry. He's using his privileged relationship with the Prime Minister to defend discount drivers, even if it means putting lives at risk. Is that why the Liberals aren't doing anything on this file? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, it's this Prime Minister who has called on the CRA to crack down on these discount drivers. It's this Prime Minister who's ordered more inspections to make sure that the Canadian Labour Code is being respected. It's this Prime Minister who's making sure that trucking companies, legitimate trucking companies, can operate in Canada. And that's been recognized in a meeting that I had this morning with who? The Quebec Association of Truckers, who've congratulated the government for everything that has been done by this government. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Quebec Truckers Association also says that there's a lot of things the government can still do to fix this file. When it comes to discount drivers, the Liberals once again appear to be protecting the interests of their friends, unless it's the interests of their own pockets. Because in addition to the Prime Minister's organizer, who's lobbying unofficially, the Liberals have received $85,000 in donations from people linked to discount drivers. It's extremely worrying to see their inaction when road accidents have gone up by 35% in Quebec just 1 year. If road safety is really a priority for the Liberals, How is it that the Bloc's 10 requests have not been applied? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, in all the actions that have been taken by the Prime Minister, by the Minister of Finance, by the Labour Minister and the Minister of Transport to crack down on these discount drivers, regime that I would note was created by Mr. Harper, one thing has been missed, and I think that Mr. Plamondon is going to come and reproach the Bloc Québécois because the Bloc is asking for the federal government to interfere in the jurisdiction of the government of Quebec to fix their issues and their problems. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to do that.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister can't be trusted on pipelines. He endorsed Justin Trudeau's cancellation of the approved Northern Gateway pipeline and stopped the shipment of Canadian oil through Northern BC. Now he claims he might allow a new pipeline, but his Liberal MPs insist that it will never get built. Instead of playing both sides, the Prime Minister should definitively endorse a new pipeline to Canada's west coast and cancel the Liberal ban on shipping oil from Northern BC. Will the Prime Minister finally stop the doublespeak, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for the Conservative motion today?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, for a future pipeline, it means diversifying our trade and greater competitiveness on a global scale. We need to put cards in our hand to fight this trade war. But there are things we need to do to get there. Things like in the Memorandum of Understanding that we can get united behind, like the carbon price. The Conservative motion conveniently ignores strengthening industrial carbon pricing. The Leader opposes something that the Premier of Alberta agrees with. We support the entire MOU. We hope they will.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, we'll take no lessons from a minister who conducts Indigenous consultations over Zoom. We absolutely will oppose a carbon tax in all of its forms, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has said that he told us keep it in the ground caucus that the pipeline will never happen, while he promises Albertans that it might. So today he can finally come clean with Canadians and provide crystal clear clarity. He can support our motion, which is based on his MOU, vote to cancel his tanker ban and greenlight a new pipeline. So why doesn't he get out of the way, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for our Conservative motion?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what you're hearing from member opposite is exactly the problem with this MOU. It discounts several things. One, that in a federation, we work together. We work with provinces, we work with Indigenous communities to make things happen. Getting out of the way is only a strategy if you want to get nothing done. The way to get things done is to work together. And for every single member for British Columbia on the other side of the House, I ask, how can they support a motion that ignores British Columbia and British Columbians completely? They should be ashamed of themselves.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Today is a monumental day for Canada's energy sector and for my province of Alberta. We will see if the Liberals stand behind their Prime Minister's promise to build a pipeline for Canada, or will he do as his predecessor and submit to his sit-in-the-ground caucus? Families in my riding are worried that this Prime Minister is paying lip service once again and that these are empty words. And it's no surprise as to why, after how this government has destroyed the natural resources sector over the last decade. So will the Liberals stop obstructing a pipeline and vote for our motion? Or will Alberta have its hopes dashed again?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
I think that honourable member should tell our constituents this, that this government was elected to do big things, that we are focused on making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. We're going to be building bridges, community centres, hospitals, transit, thousands of good-paying jobs, Mr. Speaker, with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, with Canadian skilled trades workers. But the Conservatives voted against every single part of this, Mr. Speaker. Voted against building houses, voted against major projects, voted against opportunities for youth. When will the Conservatives get on board, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, this Prime Minister continues to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He has mastered his predecessor's art of saying one thing in one province and another thing in another. Albertans want the truth. In a pathetic display of misrepresentation, his own Calgary MP couldn't even defend the leading sector and source of livelihood for Calgarians. So will this Prime Minister stand in this House and tell the nation, tell Alberta, tell Calgary, and tell the member for Calgary Confederation that his government will not blame anyone else, not put this on anyone else, and that he will ensure a pipeline is built?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, the MOU is about building Canada strong. The people of Alberta, I was born in Calgary. I talk to Albertans every single day, and they know that our Prime Minister is bringing Canadians together to build big things, to build a stronger economy. Meanwhile, the Conservative leader has spent 20 years in this House, including as a minister, and has built nothing, continues to divide Canadians, continues to play political games. Mr. Speaker, now is not a time to play games. It's time for serious leadership to step up and build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
The Prime Minister is talking out of both sides of his mouth on pipelines and tanker bans. Behind closed doors, he whispers to the Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus that the pipeline will never be built, while signing an MOU to build one for Canadians. The Liberals say they are for a tanker ban, but then the Prime Minister promised to override it in the MOU. The Prime Minister promises Indigenous communities a seat at the table for a pipeline, but has ignored them for the last 8 months and is cutting them out of the tripartite decision-making table. Will the Liberals stop obstructing the pipeline by voting for their own MOU?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you. You know, I want to speak to what the Conservative Party claims this motion speaks to. While on one hand, they speak to half the sentence of respecting consultations for Indigenous people, they are also speaking on the other side of their mouth to the jurisprudence that would allow these projects to move forward. So I want to understand, what are they doing? Are they consulting or pushing projects forward? Because that's the concern of Indigenous people. That is what they're bringing to the table. That is what we're looking at when they come and work with us in partnership. And that is the future that they want to decide on with us.
The Honourable Member for Acadianapolis.
The Prime Minister said he would be judged by the minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries.
I was afraid this would happen. Not from the top, but he may continue.
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries, forestry, and agriculture remain at the heart of Nova Scotia's economy. When the Atlantic Economic Panel was announced 2 weeks ago, were representatives from these sectors included? And could the minister tell us how he plans to ensure that these important industries will have a way to contribute to the panel's work?
Great question. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Conservative Shadow Minister for Economic Development in Atlantic Canada for being finally permitted to ask a question about Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, it speaks volumes about the Conservative Party that since he has joined the government, they are yet to actually replace him and go without a voice from Atlantic Canada representing the economic interests of Atlantic Canada. Yes, we rely on these traditional industries that he cited in his question, but we've appointed a private sector-led panel of business leaders to shoot the path forward on energy, on defense, on clean tech to ensure we have good paying jobs.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
I think it's safe to say, after all of that, the Prime Minister regrets telling Canadians that he's going to be judged by the prices at the grocery store, because these prices are skyrocketing and it's only getting worse. Now 1 in 10 people in Toronto are using a food bank, and even full-time job holders have to use one too. Instead of getting full carts at the grocery store, Canadians get to watch trending TikTok videos about making what they're calling poverty meals. That's out of ramen and hot dogs. So can the Prime Minister seriously say, with a straight face, that this is the standard that he wants Canadians to live under?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Prime Minister is delivering for Canadians, let's take a moment to reflect on the hypocrisy of the members opposite in this House. They voted against meals for children at school. They voted against $800 worth of savings for families through the school food program. They voted against dental care.
for seniors and for children, and they voted against saving parents thousands of dollars on childcare. If the members opposite want to talk about judgment, Mr. Speaker, they should start by looking at their own record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Is that after a decade in power, let Ottawa feed your kids. They've already admitted their failure after 10 years. Let me put it in context, though, for that minister. The number of people using a food bank in Toronto alone could fill the Rogers Centre 8 times every single month. And with the average grocery bill set to rise by $1,000 next year, the government's $11 a year tax cut to those who need it most isn't going to cut it. So no, we will not vote for it. Instead of giving crumbs back to Canadians, why don't they cut the taxes off of food and let Canadians have a meal at home?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Here. Mr. Speaker, for starters, there is no tax on food. That's right. We can start there. Canadian families with children under 6 are receiving up to $8,000 a year tax-free per child. This is a program that is tagged to inflation to meet and keep up with the cost of living. Members opposite, year after year, vote against investments like the Canada Child Benefit. It is shameful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Canadians aren't asking for more government programs. They're just asking for the dignity and respect of being able to provide for themselves and their families. Right now, Canadians are struggling more than ever to be able to afford things. And in my riding, I just received a phone call from an elderly gentleman who shared with me that he's now down to 1 meal per day. And he's desperate, and he's without hope. And he's looking at this government and he's saying that they've abandoned him. And so he's looking for an answer. Will the Liberals simply repeat their tired talking points about big government programs and the food school program, or will they actually provide a real solution to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, if you listen to the Conservatives over there, Mr. Speaker, there is no solution. The solution is sink or swim. If you can't afford to feed your family, oh well, too bad. The state's not there to take care of you. But here in Canada, we've always believed in taking care of each other. It's why we're known for our universal healthcare system around the world. And Mr. Speaker, we built on that. We make sure that we take care of people who need food. We make sure that families who need extra help get the Canada Child Benefit. We make sure that if you're working poor, you get a working income tax benefit. Because why, Mr. Speaker? We believe that Canada is stronger when it includes all of us.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Again, Canadians are not asking for more government programs or to be spoken to in the manner that that minister just did. They are simply asking to be respected and empowered to be able to provide for themselves. And one of the best ways that this government can do that is by taking unnecessary taxes off of food. According to the latest report, food prices next year are going to go up by about $1,000 more per family. $1,000. There's a woman in my riding who recently reached out to me as she has 4 kids and she relies on the food bank. She feels desperate and without hope. She just wants the dignity of being able to provide for her kids. Will the Liberals hear it?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Speaker, I think that you've heard it from this side, and we will keep on saying it. We are there to support Canadians, and you hear about the many programs that they voted against that we are putting in place to support Canadians. But if we're going to rely on that food report, also should look at what it said about, for example, the price of beef, which is nearly a decade of drought in the leading beef-producing area of Canada has resulted in the smallest number of cattle since the late 1980s. Reduced supply and consistent demand creates upward pressure. The cost of food is going up because of climate change. There is no tax on food, but we will be there to provide the programs to help Canadians.
The honourable member for York Durham.
Here's a resident they're not supporting, Mr. Speaker. He wrote to me and said, quote, "I have lived in the same neighborhood for more than a decade, and almost every essential cost of living has increased dramatically. He had the receipts for his groceries from $200 a month to $600 a month. And what did the Prime Minister say? We should judge him by the price of groceries at the store. Well, that's some judgment, Mr. Speaker, some failure. And next year will get worse. Canadians will pay $1,000 and more according to the Food Price Report. Given those struggles, will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending, scrap the carbon tax, and get rid of the new fuel tax?"
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's almost the holidays. Goodwill to all. The opposition leader says, nah, let's circle back next year after my leadership review. Meanwhile, hardworking Canadians wait for a well-earned tax break. They wait for a $50,000 first-time homebuyer's tax cut. Children wait for healthy meals at school. Families and seniors wait for affordable housing. And in addition to that, that number won't even stand up in this House and support the healthcare infrastructure fund that would build a hospital in Durham region that's badly needed for families. He should be ashamed of himself.
The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable, Lotbinière. The Prime Minister sat just across the way, made it a personal issue. He told Canadians that he wanted to be judged on the price of groceries. Irrespective of the excuses the Liberals keep repeating in the House today, it was the Prime Minister himself who decided what he wanted to be judged on. Well, not only has he failed miserably to bring prices down, but the bill will increase by another $1,000 next year. Why has the Prime Minister duped Canadians who are increasingly lining up at food banks because of his inflationary spending? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's rather unfortunate to spend so much energy to be elected, only just to harp on the same thing over and over again, speaking points from their leader to answer. It's even sadder to see that they vote against the childcare benefits, against the school food program that is saving $800 for the most vulnerable families. They voted against affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. They voted against the dental care system. When he talks about inflationary spending, I would like him to tell us what he even means by that. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable, Lotbinière. Consultants, bureaucracy, all of that. No Liberals has stood up to defend the Prime Minister who said to Canadians, "You will judge me on the price of groceries." That is what he said. 36% of Quebecers face food insecurity. 3 million visits per month to food banks in Quebec. The Prime Minister's wealthy friends are certainly not affected by the reality of families skipping meals. They have enough money, they eat their fills. He promised to lower food prices. He misled Canadians. Will he stop his inflationary spending so that families can finally eat their fill, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. In the previous answer, Mr. Speaker, I listed everything against which they voted that supports people in his riding, Quebecers and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We were elected to give opportunities to all Canadians and to all Quebecers, and that's what we're doing. 54,000 jobs created in November, 67,000 in October, 60,000 created in September. Unemployment is going down, inflation is going down, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we are building the strongest G7 economy. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that we needed to judge him on the cost of groceries. 8 months later, the price of food has exploded and families can't feed themselves. The 2026 report forecasts a worsening situation in Saguenay. 70 organizations that offer food assistance confirm that requests have gone up faster than what is available. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending so that Canadians can eat their fill? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize how good my colleagues' local teams are, hockey-wise, but what he doesn't really recognise is that no one in the Saguenay is saying, take these programs away. Remove the school food program, we don't like it. Remove support for organizations, we don't like it. Remove support for volunteers, we hate that. Remove the housing benefits. No one is saying that in the Saguenay, Mr. Speaker. The member should vote with us to keep these supports for the people of the Saguenay and elsewhere in our country. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals need to stop burying their heads in the sand, and they need to be aware of what is actually happening on the ground. The majority of requests now come from families where both parents work. We're no longer talking about single parents, and that's alarming. The Canadian Food Report predicts an additional $1,000 per year per family for food, one of the largest increases ever seen in our history. When will the government allow Canadians to finally feed themselves with dignity? the Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the Minister for Public Services and Procurement, asked a very pertinent question earlier. What is an inflationary expenditure at the end of the day? Month after month, day after day, week after week, in these halls, we're asking, is it supporting aluminium workers? Is it helping kids eat at school? Is it helping people with their dental care? Is that inflationary spending? Is it health transfers to province? What is an inflationary spending? After all of these months, can we finally get a definition of an inflationary spending?
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in my father's dying days, he mustered the courage to stand in this chamber to fight for the passage of his private member's bill that set out a vision for the prairie provinces to continue playing their prominent role in our federation. That vision was realized with the passage of the Green Prairie Economy Act, which received royal assent shortly after his passing on December 12, 2022. Can the minister responsible for prairies share how the newly announced Prairie Partnership Initiative enhances this vision and establishes new opportunities for growth across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
I want to thank the member for Winnipeg South Centre for his question and for his continued support as we advance the legacy that his father set in motion for a stronger prairie economy. The Prairie Partnership Initiative is a new coordinated approach that gives significant prairie projects a clear pathway through the federal system so that they can move from ambition to action. By aligning federal expertise with prairie priorities, the PPI will help meet this critical moment by positioning the prairies at the
Honourable Member for Middlesex.
The Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, Canadians have judged, and they're angry. When the Liberals came into office in 2015, the Canadian grocery bill was $159 a week. And after 10 years, it's more than doubled now to $338. Greg from Kamoka wrote me to say that he's sick of the rules for you and not for me attitude. Speaker, families can't afford meat and they're lining up at food banks while these Liberals continue to feast at public expense. So why does this Prime Minister think that he deserves luxury while Canadians can't afford lunch?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, watching the leader of the Conservative Party lose in slow motion today has been a little bit amusing, but what's more interesting is watching him do it with a big grin on his face because he's so proud of himself. He's proud to vote against childcare, and he's proud to vote against school food programs, and he's so proud to vote against affordable housing. But what else he's proud of today, he's also proud to call climate change just weather. And he's also proud to refer to Indigenous people with a possessive noun. They're not ours. Mr. Speaker, he seems very proud of himself. But you know what Canadians are proud of? They're proud of our institutions. They're proud of programs that support them. And they're proud of this side, on this government, we're supporting them.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex, London.
Starving, and this member is making fun of things, and I say the Liberals should all be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Bad Liberal policies are what's driving up the cost of food by $1,000 next year. Caitlin from Thames Centre says the government is driving us into systemic destruction at the cost of food, fuel, and groceries soar. Albert from Strathroy asks why the Prime Minister promised cheaper groceries, safer streets, and more homes, but after 7 months, all he's delivered is higher prices, higher crime, and less for hardworking Canadians. So do the Liberals even care that there's over 2.2 million visits to food banks, or are they just here to help Brookfield line the Prime Minister's pockets?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, there's no taxes on groceries. There's no taxes on food. There will never be taxes on groceries, and there will never be taxes on food. And that member's a farmer. She should know better. She should know that the industrial carbon price has absolutely no impact on the cost of groceries, Mr. Speaker. They keep talking about things like the price of coffee. Maybe they should stand up and talk about how industrial carbon pricing in Canada affects the Colombian price of coffee, Mr. Speaker. It's absurd, Mr. Speaker. They're very, very proud to vote against all these programs that support Canadians, but if they could just provide Canadians with one solution to help them at the grocery store over this holiday season. Merry Christmas. Yeah, truly, Merry Christmas.
The honourable member for Saskatoon South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Guess what, Mr. Speaker? I have a better idea. Come to my food bank. 23,000 visits a month at the Saskatoon Food Bank. And better yet, we have a resurgence of scurvy in northern Saskatchewan. The Canadian Food Price Report confirms additional $1,000 will be needed next year to feed a family of 4. So is the Prime Minister ready to remove the industrial carbon?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's see what has this tired and old opposition accomplished in the last 10 years. Addressing food affordability, zero achievement. Addressing housing needs, zero achievement. Building major projects, zero achievement. Addressing challenge of tariff, zero achievement. But the negative attitude towards Canada must stop. Because if you don't stop attacking Canada, I'm saying today I'm going to take every single one of them off my Christmas card list.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, last week the President of the Treasury Board held and hosted a core summit on reduction of the red tape, bringing together the leaders from across the country. Could the President update the House what came out of this summit and how this work will help cut red tape, speed up approvals, and strengthen Canada's economy?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
National President, I would like to thank my colleague for this excellent question. The summit was an important step forward, building on the 60-day red tape review we launched in July. We recently announced a new series of horizontal reviews. These reviews look across government to eliminate regulatory barriers and deliver faster and more reliable services, so we can grow our economy faster and build Canada strong, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, 8 months later, those prices have skyrocketed. I've heard countless horror stories in Edmonton of families struggling to afford food. I've even heard of single moms selling their furniture online to pay for rent and groceries. Just this week, Miranda from North Edmonton told me, I honestly don't know how people are getting by. It's heat or eat. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending and gas the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
2025 winds down and we're reviewing our Spotify Wrapped. Let's look at the Conservatives' 2025 Wrapped. In 2025, the Conservatives lost their 4th election in a row, spent Alberta's money on a by-election so they could say they created at least one job, invented imaginary taxes, and presented a platform with no plan to support seniors or families. Mr. Speaker, they need to work on their playlist because they are not listening to the same tunes as Canadians.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
The former Liberal Environment Minister says this government approved a bitumen pipeline that abandons Canada's climate goals and risks BC's coast. In this House, the Prime Minister said British Columbia and impacted First Nations must agree to this project. In BC, the Energy Minister claimed free, prior, and informed consent is required. But the MOU signed between Ottawa and Alberta says no such thing. Liberals are telling one story here, another in BC, and yet another in Alberta. Canadians deserve to know, is consent for this pipeline required or not?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was very clear in this House. He said that the agreement requires agreement from British Columbia requires the agreement of First Nations. That has been said in this House, and we stand by that right here, right now, and we will continue to.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One section of the enormous Bill C-15, over 600 pages of omnibus budget bill, that's not yet been even mentioned in this place, and it wasn't mentioned in the budget either. So the idea that the Budget Implementation Act just implements things in the budget is belied by pages 301 to 304, with it exempt at ministerial discretion the application of Canadian law to any entity, which could be people or corporations, at the discretion of the minister with no public oversight. Can anyone here, particularly Minister of Finance, explain?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Remember that the budget bill is full of really great measures for this country, but one thing we can all acknowledge is that Canada has world-class innovators and entrepreneurs, those of whom will help us build the strongest economy in the G7. As part of that process, we're reducing red tape to broaden the use of something called regulatory sandboxes to help foster and spur research and development and innovation. We'll do this in a responsible way, in a forward-looking way, and in a temporary way. These will be authorizations that are limited, but these will help us keep up with the speed of innovation in this country. Thank you.
Like and subscribe, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.